Right. Terrific. All right, we're live. Good evening, everybody, and thanks for joining the monthly Morse Code Zoom forum. And welcome to a few new faces. It's great to see you here. This is a fairly informal once-a-month get-together that I host, where I hopefully find some interesting people to talk to share experience, anecdotes, and hopefully some helpful advice for Morse code operators and aspiring operators here in the Oceania region. The use of the Zoom facility is sponsored by RASA, the Radio Amateur Society of Australia. So thanks to them. It's saving some money with that subscription, and also to CW Ops, who obviously support us with the CW Academy program. G'day, Alan, BK2GR, who's just joined us as well.
Hi, Chris.
All right. Hopefully a good, exciting program tonight. As many of you know, we've just finished the January-February semester of CW Academy, which we hosted here in the Oceania region recently. And just to fill you in with what went on globally, there were a total of 422 students, 56 advisors, and 69 classes that CW Academy delivered in January and February across the globe. Here in Australia and New Zealand, we finished with 13 students, 3 classes, and 1 advisor. So I thought it would be good for us to get together and hear from some of those students. You can have an opportunity to ask questions and think about if you would like to join one of the future classes. At this stage, the plan of attack is to run 2 classes in the May-June semester. I won't be doing 3. That was perhaps just a little ambitious, but it was a great experience. I think everyone enjoyed it, and I got as much out of it as all the students did as well. So it was a lot of fun. So it's great to be able to report that I've got Peter here and also Stan, who were from the advanced class. Hello, Peter, and hello, Stan. Stan's agreed to share with us. Peter has agreed to share with us some of his experiences, and I'm sure both of them would be happy to answer any questions. We've got Jim, VK7JZ. Thanks, Jim, who was in the intermediate class. I'm just seeing if there was anyone else. Was there anyone else in the intermediate class? Kevin was here. Kevin was in the intermediate class as well. So Jim will share some anecdotes and stories, and I'm quite sure if anyone has questions, both Jim and Kevin will be happy to answer those. I'm just having a look, and we have got Darren is here from the beginners class. Bob was going to have joined us, 6POP, but I know he was in Perth to share some of his stories. So Darren, I might, if you don't mind, ask you to fill that gap for us. That'd be terrific. So right, I'll kick off with a very quick summary. CW Academy offers 4 classes: beginners, fundamental, intermediate, and advanced. They run 3 semesters a year, and they're each 8-week classes. To say they're quite immersive and intensive is probably fair. I'll let the students comment on that some more. On the CW Ops website, there's a bit of an overview as to what you could call the entry criteria for each of the courses and what we hope the students will achieve as they leave each of the class levels. So beginners is very much working with the assumption that you have little or no Morse code experience, and you come out the other end, ideally at sort of somewhere in the 8 to 10 word a minute range, but using Farnsworth. So all of our teaching is done at a character speed in the 18 to 20 word a minute character speed, and we use the Farnsworth method to slow it down. So that's the method where you increase the spacing between characters and words, whilst people are learning to do the instant character recognition and come up to speed. One of the great benefits with this method is that you are learning to hear the rhythm and the tones and the sounds. You're not counting dits and dars, and we certainly don't have those old-fashioned lookup tables that many of us probably had in the 70s and 80s, even into the 90s when we learnt the code. And we're not subjecting people. I'm sure everyone can remember those wonderful WIA New South Wales tapes at 5 words a minute. It's really, I think that both anecdotal and learned experience has demonstrated that that's a very ineffective way to learn Morse code. You're much better learning it off at a faster character speed with increased spacing. And as your instant character recognition improves, we reduce that spacing so that eventually the word speed catches up with the character speed. All of the classes are delivered online via Zoom twice a week for 1 hour, and students have homework exercises that they do 6 days a week, comprising both listening and sending exercises. So that's just a little bit of a summary from the beginners through to the advanced. With the advanced, there's an assumption that you're coming in around about the 18 to 20 word a minute mark. And it's typically geared towards those of us who learnt the old-fashioned way. And I'm sure you can all appreciate you come up against that hurdle, that's somewhere in the 18 to 20 word a minute range, and you just can't get past it. The advanced class is designed to help jump that barrier, if you like, and really start developing head copy skills and getting up to 25 words a minute conversational, with those quick contest type exchanges closer to 30 words a minute. So that's what we do in the advanced class. I might start from the advanced and work backwards, just so that you, Darren, have got the benefit of listening to a couple of the other guys first. Really, the purpose of this is to give the 3 guys, Peter, Jim, and Darren, an opportunity to share their experience with you for each of those class levels, and then sort of ask questions and have a bit of a discussion as we go. So perhaps, Peter, if I could throw it across to you, just a very quick introduction about yourself and what you came into the course with in terms of your experience and your expectations. We'll keep it to maybe, 6, 7, 8 minutes so that we've got time for the 3 class levels. Thanks, Peter.
Sure. I was first licensed in the 1980s and operated mainly CW for perhaps 2 or 3 years until had a couple of young children and basically dropped out of amateur radio until about 4 years ago when I thought I'd like to take this up again, very much with a view to doing the CW again. The first time I was licensed, I never got beyond 12 words a minute. And I would hear, of course, on the air people at, I suppose, 20 words a minute and just think, how in the hell am I ever going to understand them or be able to send at that kind of speed? I understood vaguely that if I practiced and just kept at it, that it might eventually happen, but it did seem a very distant goal. When I got relicensed, I learned the code again from scratch, really, using lcwo.org, using the cock method there, just getting familiar with the 40 characters. And once I'd got myself up to, I think I was working at about a sort of 15 or 18 words a minute character speed. Then I discovered that there was this Tuesday night, the QRS group that meets on a Tuesday night, and I began taking part in that, and that seemed like fun. And that's where I came across Chris, who started putting little pieces in the newsletter that the Tuesday night group put out every week. And he was saying, if you've got any questions about CW, how about you contact me. I'm happy to answer any questions. And at that stage, I was playing around with a Morserino, using it in echo trainer mode, seeing if I could nudge my speed up off air to maybe 20 or even 25 words a minute, seeing if I could read words and send them back at 25. And I was getting awfully tangled up with some words. And I couldn't really figure out why. And I wrote to Chris and I said, can you give me any sort of strategies for tackling these words that seem difficult? Is there something known about what words are difficult to send and what words aren't? I saw my problems as to do with sending. And Chris, in his characteristic fashion, didn't exactly answer the question, but asked me a lot of much more intriguing questions, like, what do you want to achieve with Morse code? What are your goals? Where would you like to be? Something that I hadn't honestly really thought about. And he gave me some examples of what his own personal goals were. He could rattle off, I think at that stage, about sort of 4 areas where he was working on levels of improvement, and they were quantified. I want to be able to do this at between 25 and 30, and I want to be able to do that. And it was all measurable. And I was most impressed, and I thought, wow, I better have a think about what I want to achieve. And when I did that, I thought I would love to be able to work comfortably at 25 words a minute, sending rag chewing, basically. I've had no interest in contesting whatsoever, but I would love to be able to do that. Now, I thought that is miles away. I'll never be able to do that, or it's going to be a long time, but that's my goal. At least I've got a goal. And Chris said, this was all by email at this stage, Chris said, well, have a go, get on the air, or, just try sending at that speed. Well, I'd never done that. And as soon as I did have a go at that, I discovered to my amazement that while I certainly made lots and lots of mistakes, I wasn't actually that far off being able to do it as I had thought. This is a guy who on Tuesday night would be sending at 15 words a minute. That was my go-to speed. And it wasn't long after that, and that sort of opened my eyes to, I might have some abilities that I don't realise I've got here. It wasn't long after that that Chris began floating the idea of these courses, and I was thinking, oh yeah, okay, I might be good for the intermediate course. I'll have a crack at that perhaps. And Chris is saying, no, you come and do the advanced course. So I did. And all I can say is that there's something about meeting with a course advisor twice a week for an hour, along with your fellow students, and doing an hour a day's practice, 6 days a week, with a goal in mind that you've set for yourself that's somehow vaguely correlated at least with the nominal course goals. That in itself is a magic combination, almost irrespective of what are the particular things that you're doing in that hour. Now, as it turned out, I wasn't sort of totally overawed or very impressed by what the curriculum said we were supposed to be doing. It was a rather scanty curriculum for the advanced course. I believe the earlier courses might have a more fleshed out curriculum. But regardless of that, Chris was able to sort of effectively provide us with a curriculum on the fly, suggestions for what to be doing. And he's an incredibly persuasive and enthusiastic advocate of Morse code and of pushing yourself a bit with Morse code, of just nudging yourself on just to see whether you can extract that extra little bit of performance out of yourself. And it's just a winning combination. Now, I've come out of that course. I have had QSOs now at 25 words a minute with some of you. Yes, I still feel like I'm getting tangled up a lot of the time. It's certainly not where I would like to be with it yet. But I think I'm doing better. And I've come out of the course. I don't know, I'd be interested to know what the other students' experience has been. But I'm still keeping a diary every day of what my practice is. And I'm still doing an hour a day's practice. Determined to just see how far I can get with this, because I want to get to the point where I'm on air and I'm comfortable and I'm not worried all the time that I'm going to make a mess. All right, I've been on the air Sometimes it works well, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I feel like I made a hell of a mess of that, sometimes not. I want to be really comfortable all the time. And I feel that this participating in this advanced course with those factors that I talked about, the twice a week Zoom session, the hour a day practice, the meeting together with other students, the meeting with Chris and his fantastic enthusiasm and know-how and experience, it's just a winning combination. It has been for me. And it's really kind of lit me up about what can I do with Morse code, and I want to find out what I can do, and I want to get to that. I think I can get to that happy place where I actually feel secure and where I'm just having fun on the radio, and that's been very much the goal that Chris has held in front of me as a goal. He's been very keen to inculcate in me that sense of, it's at the end of the day, it's about having fun on the air, not just sitting at home doing practice on your own. And he's been an incredibly effective advocate in putting that to me. So that's all I'd like to say.
Terrific. Thank you. Thanks, Peter. And thanks for the kind words as well. And look, I think that Peter's summed up something that came through from all of the students, and that was the structure of meeting twice a week, the level of accountability that it brings to the table. Yeah, Jim's giving a thumbs up. And as much as we can all remember and hate homework, building that into your daily routine. And that was something that I've been a very, very firm advocate of, is not to fit your life around the practice regime, but find a way to fit the practice regime into your life. So we've got all these fantastic devices now, this thing that, we call a phone. It's a perfect Morse code trainer if you're out walking the dog, commuting to work, sitting down, having lunch. We've got some wonderful tools, particularly for the beginners, V-Band and CW Hotline, that helps learners build good rhythm and sending techniques. And then that, as Peter mentioned, the structure of the class. And I also noted and very much took on board that particularly it came through in the advanced class more, which maybe isn't a surprise, that there was a very, very big assumption that if you're in the advanced class, you've probably already had 10 years on air, 15 years on air. You knew a lot about Morse code, you knew a lot about operating environments, and that you would just fill in the gaps in the syllabus. It was probably fair to say that the syllabus was a little bit of a checklist of practice sessions, and lacking a little bit more about method, hints and tips, things to watch out for. And I guess that's where, as advisors, we were sort of expected to fill those gaps. So that's something where I've been taking a lot of feedback on board from all three classes to channel that back to CW Academy in the States. Are there any questions at all for Peter before I pass the baton across to Jim? I've muted you all, so you will need to unmute if you have any questions for Peter. No, terrific. But yes, Peter, and look, I just wanted to also thank you and also acknowledge that you came into this class. Not many people will know this, but Peter walks around with his phone in his back pocket when he goes for his daily walks, and he's listening to books at 30, 35 words a minute. So there's absolutely I was filled with a huge expectation. How can I improve Peter's hearing or copying skills? And certainly when you're in that conversational mode, those skills very much came into play. And I think it was about, as you said, Peter, balancing out that, well, what I called a game plan. A tennis player only having a good serve, but doesn't have a good backhand or maybe lobbing.
Yeah, my weaknesses were reading call signs and numbers. Terrible. There's not many call signs and numbers in a Sherlock Holmes novel, and also not feeling confident sending. The course seemed to just assume that there wasn't much need to attend to sending, but there was for me.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
that's where I do a lot of my practice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, so very good points, Peter. And look, that was another thing I found. There was a lot of expectation on us as advisors to help with sending skills. So very good. Thanks, Peter. If I could pass it across to you, please, Jim in Hobart, to share your experience. Thanks, Pete.
Hello, Jim from Hobart. Now the pressure test. Can someone give me a wave if you guys can hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Yeah, is good. Okay, all right. So I suppose I might just start a little bit forward and then push the clock back a little bit. I will try. I won't take up the full 8 minutes. I just want to echo the comments from Peter and also from Chris in relation to that having a daily practice, coming together, getting some mentoring and some assistance. Shout out to Chris. I'm very appreciative of Chris for his guidance and tips along the way. And in particular, notwithstanding the fact that a lot of his guidance was about how you set your mindset, how you do your practice, working together with the other classmates. But a couple of the things that I took away that weren't necessarily in the curriculum, but I benefited from Chris's experience. Chris had comments for me in relation to how I was actually setting up my key and actually setting the key to a slight offset to actually match the angle of my arm, how I actually support my arm, and then my actual finger positioning of how to use the paddle. And at first, when I tried some of the suggestions from Chris, I was a little bit like, oh goodness, this feels terribly awkward. But within about an hour, maybe 2 hours of practice, it now feels natural and things are happening a lot easier because of Chris's advice. So just winding the clock back a little bit, I've been into amateur radio for 3 years. It was a requirement for my wife to find a hobby to take my mind off work. So that started 3 years ago. Being Tasmanian, I love my bushwalking. I just love getting out there. So my little passion is getting up on the mountains and doing summits. What turned my mind to CW a little bit over a year ago, I had a trip to the mainland and I was going to knock out some big summits, including Kosciuszko. And at this stage, I didn't know CW. And I was on top of Mount Cope in Victoria, and there was thunderstorms, passing showers, lightning. I was completely happy in that environment. It felt a bit like Tasmania. But because of all the static crashes, I could not get any voice contacts. I was really, really struggling, and I was calling and calling, and of course, someone would respond to me, and then a big crash had come through. And then when I looked further down the band, I could hear the Morse code operators banging away, and I'm thinking, my goodness, I need to learn CW. That's clearly when the conditions are challenging, CW is where you need to be. So I walked away from that travelling experience, activating Kosciuszko on voice, but coming back to Tasmania, determined I'm going to learn CW. I started off with phone apps and learning the alphabet and my numbers and 5 or 6 key abbreviations or other characters, much the same as Peter. And then I thought, righto, take the plunge. And so I went up onto one of the peaks on the Wellington Range behind Hobart, and I took a mate with me, and it seriously was this hopeless. We had the radio set up, I had the paddle, because I had to think hard and I was very new at it. My friend actually was holding the log, and I would hear the calls coming in, and I would actually call out the characters and he would log them for me. And I was so slow and so terrible, and I made so many mistakes. And so many times, even for people that I know and who I know what their call signs are, I wanted to throw the paddle away. I was about ready to give up. I was just so embarrassed. As a result of that, I went away, and this course with Chris is actually my second CWA Academy course. So same time last year, I undertook the fundamental course, and that really, really helped. It helped all sort of put into place. Didn't really pick up much speed, but my consistency probably picked up a little bit. And the advice from the advisor then was, Jim, you just need to get out there and start making more live QSOs. So people for the last 12 months have probably been seeing spots from me from various summits around the place. After that, I'm now finding that on the summits, it's not so intimidating. I I didn't have mic fright, but I had paddle fright. I don't have that fright anymore. I certainly wouldn't consider myself to be a fast or competent operator, but that then led me to wanting to get better, not because I want to compete or win competitions, but I'd really like to get to a nice, smooth conversational CW, something outside the box rather than call sign, signal report, thanks very much, see you later. I wanted to lift my skills a bit. So that's where I started getting involved in the Tuesday night slow speed Morse. And I was certainly lost with the conversations there at the beginning because we were having conversations and words were coming at me that I wasn't expecting. Whereas with what Chris describes as a boilerplate, straight, simple QSO, you kind of know what's coming next. So I did that, and that then also led to access to Chris's suggestion that he put forward of looking for people to sort of take the next step and do a CWA Academy course. What I found with that was that when I went to do the exam that set where I should be, and it suggested I should be at the intermediate level, was that the previous exams that I'd done a year ago, I actually found them to be easy. So clearly I was getting some progression, but it just wasn't consistent progression. So I suppose that then leaves us to my comments on the course, exactly the same as what Peter said. Practicing with your sending drills, practicing with your listening drills, practicing listening to recordings, particularly the fact that a lot of the recordings may be words where they're similar sounding words but with slightly different characters. And so you get to start to learn word patterns of maybe three common characters at the front of a word or three common characters at the end of a word. That really, really helps. And also then the little exercises we were doing as a group, like coming up with a shopping list, and someone would send the first item on the shopping list, then it would take it in turns. The next person would repeat the first item, add a second item, then the third person would repeat the first two items, add a third one. I think when I started to get it was when I probably got ahead of myself and I was a little bit cheeky about halfway through the course, and I wrote down what I sent because Chris invited us to send a short phrase. And I said, Chris, VK3QB owes Phil VK3VB a bottle of scotch. And Chris giggled. So I thought, I'm getting it. What I've noticed since the course, and then I'll stop, is probably, I was actually fearing it was a little bit of regression. I was naturally going to a slightly slower speed on the last couple of summits I went to, and even a park that I was at yesterday. What I've found is that a real live QSO where you've got background noise, you've got fade, you've got crashes, you've got those natural environment things happening, it is not as easy as listening to a recording where there's none of that guff in the background. And even from yesterday when I was at a park, and I think I had 6 or 7 QSOs, I was really pleased that I copied an American station, and I actually wrote down his call sign correctly the first time, but I asked him to resend it because I thought there's no way I'm getting the US on 40 metres, but he repeated the call sign and apparently I had it right, so I logged it. But I walked away from that even last night thinking, oh my goodness, I'm going a little bit slower than what we were doing in class, I'm regressing. So this morning I put the earbuds in, listening to recordings on my 45-minute walk to work, and straight away I was back at, I could decode words at 25 words per minute. So I'm definitely seeing, for me, there's a difference between listening to drills where there is no interference and being in the real world, and the real world for me is a bit slower than listening to the training drills. And that's probably it from me, other than to repeat my appreciation for Chris and also for my other classmates for having the training, having the daily responsibility, being accountable to each other, and having a good sense of humour, because I know on my part, I sent some mistakes. So hopefully I didn't blow my 8 minutes too much.
Not at all, no. Thank you, Jim. And good to see that consistent theme coming through with the twice weekly meetings. really helping the process, as well as that regular homework. And thanks for mentioning the shopping list game. That was a fun one, and it's something that I don't know if I mentioned it, but as Jim described it, you go into a supermarket and the first person picks out their shopping item, and the next person has to repeat it and then do their shopping item, and so it goes. For the intermediates, they could write down what they were copying and write down what they were going to send. For the advanced, where we were doing head copy, they couldn't write down what they received or what they were sending. So they needed to remember it all. And that was a couple of moments of I could see faces pausing and looking skywards. But I think we got up to either 7 or 8 items in the shopping list, which is really good going around 4 people. I think we got 2 full rounds. And then I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, either Stan or Peter, Klaus got himself into a bit of a mess and sent his next shopping item in German, which confused all of us. And then it was nearly time for the end of class any rate, so it was a good excuse to finish up. But that was a good example, I think, of where we were applying essentially the same exercise, but to develop, if you like, a more advanced skill level. So the head copying, the concentration, the remembering, and then playing it all back on the paddle from memory, rather than having the luxury of being able to look down at your list. The other thing I just wanted to touch on that Jim made a good point about, and this was also very relevant in Peter's situation, drills where the signal to noise ratio is perfect. You can't get any better. You've got no QRM, no QRN, no QSB, no 1 kilowatt station half a kilohertz away causing interference, versus the real world. I worked a fellow over the weekend, had a great deal of trouble copying him, so I sent him an email to thank him, and he came back an American, and he said, look, thanks for the QSO. I was running 100 watts into my mobile whip set up in the backyard because I'm in one of those home associations where they don't allow antennas. And, it's not uncommon. Another time, a fellow on a 17th level of an apartment block in Tokyo, an expat, 100 watts into a mobile whip on 30 meters. So all of this learning is done in a perfect environment, but very, very quickly, I think even by week 6 in the beginners, we're encouraging people to get on air and start to experience the real world of having a Morse code contact, but perhaps also more importantly, the buzz and the fun and the confidence that builds. And yeah, thumbs up from Jim. So that's also part of it. So thanks for those anecdotes and reminding us of those, Jim. Are there any questions at all for Jim from the intermediate class, which I think is going to be really well suited for those people who are maybe comfortable in the Tuesday night environment, or your soda poda type operators who are getting out there on the weekend at 15, 18 words a minute with somewhat of a limited vocabulary, the traditional soda poda type of exchange. So, if anyone's interested, or you've got friends who are looking to just go that next level, the intermediate's probably the right class. But are there any questions for Jim? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll shoot.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So, Jim, you mentioned that when you think you were regressing, you came back to listening to recording at 45 WPM. Is that like a standard method of trying to improve your basically skills? Listening to something a lot faster than you would normally encounter.
Yes. So what I've been trying to do with the first of all, just to clarify, I haven't got to 45. I don't know that I could actually decode a character at 45. I'm certainly very, very comfortable decoding an individual character at 25, even potentially if I've got my brain switched on up to 30. What was happening with the exercises in class, from the beginning right to the very end, the characters were always coming at 25 words per minute. but it started with a very comfortable Farnsworth of 12, and I think by the end the Farnsworth had been, or the gaps had been reduced and the Farnsworth had been up to 25 and 20. So what we had during the 8 weeks was not the character speed changing, it was just the amount of time you had to think and process in between the characters was getting tighter and tighter. And so you had to train hard to keep up with it. What I was doing as an additional learning help for me, because I like to walk to work just for that bit of physical exercise and keeping the legs moving so that they don't seize up on the weekend. I've been listening to Morse Code Ninja, which is not on the syllabus. But in that particular case, what's similar is that you can pick your speed. I was picking 25 words per minute, and I think in this case I had like the top 300 words in the English language. So what was coming at me was a word. I had a brief moment to head copy and decode the word. The recording would then announce what the word was. It would then play the word back. And if I got it right in my head, I'd go, yeah, I'm getting it. And if I missed one, I'm like, oh, shoot, I missed that one. And then there would be another word. And I think the recording's about 3 hours long, so it lasts me for a couple of days of my walking to and from. Now, in that context, listening to the Morse Code Ninja at the speed I was picking it is a little bit faster than what was I suppose, the end speed of the class that I just did with Chris. But having said that, I can't maintain that for regular conversations. If someone was sending words to me at that speed, if it was a short 3 or 4 character word, I've got an odds-on good chance of getting it. As soon as it turns into a 6 or 7 or 8 character word, I'm sitting there going, oh my goodness, that one just sailed past. And while I was focusing on the one that just sailed past, the next one sailed past as well. And Chris actually has a good technique in relation to that he suggested to us of what do you do to get back on the train tracks when 4 characters just went past. And Chris' suggestion was just let it go. Just let it go, focus on the next one, don't dwell on the last one, because the more time you spend dwelling, the more you miss. And Chris's suggestion was, particularly for me, because I still write as I'm listening, Chris's suggestion was just write down what you're getting, and then when you go back, there's a good chance you've probably written down 80% or enough of the sentence that when you go back and read it, you can fill in the gaps of what it was you missed. And Chris was bang on. And certainly for me, I'm finding, particularly on the Tuesday night slow speed course, I'm still using the pen, but I'm writing a lot less down, and I'm asking for a lot less repeats. I still wouldn't call myself confident, but I'm encouraged by the fact that it's getting better.
Insofar as there is any curriculum for the advanced course with the CWA stuff, it comprises almost entirely listening exercises, which are in effect Morse Code Ninja recordings, and they are lists of words, lists of common words, or they might be lists of very short words, or they might be lists of words with a common suffix or a common prefix. Some of them, there were a lot of listening exercises that were just boilerplate QSOs, either POTA QSOs or non-POTA QSOs, all very samey. And if you thought that the course was what's written on a curriculum, almost all you would have been doing in the advanced course was listening to these recordings. These recordings were made available at speeds from 20 words a minute in 5 word a minute increments up to 35. And the instructions in the curriculum were, listen to exercise number 1 or whatever it was at 20 words a minute. Listen to it twice. Don't worry if it sort of sails past you. Just head copy it as best you can. And if you want some extra challenge, try listening to one faster. And so the opportunity there was for us at any time to challenge ourselves all the way up to 35 words a minute. So that was, insofar as there was a curriculum for the advanced course, it really was listening to vast amounts of CW Ninja recordings at whatever speed increments you decided you felt comfortable with.
Yeah. Yep. Good. Yeah, thanks, guys. I mean, in some ways, it's analogous to either improving your tennis game, your golf game, or your guitar. You want to get 70 meters with that 9-iron every time. You just go and swing it 100 times, don't you? You want to get that first serve in 99% of the time. You just get out there and practice the first serve. So that repetitious practice is what gets the results. But I think what Peter is quite rightly highlighting, and as did Stan, there's an opportunity to build a bit more meat around that repetition of practice, and that's what we'll be looking to do in future classes. I'll push on because I'm seeing the clock. Bob's joined us. Welcome, Bob. So I might, as Darren's prepared, I might just ask Darren to give us a very quick précis of his experience, and then we'll pass it across to Bob, and then we'll probably be getting close to the end of our 1 hour. So over to you, firstly, Darren, and if you could just give us a little bit of a summary of your experience in the beginners class.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. My background in radio probably goes back to when I was a kid in the 70s as a shortwave listener, shooting around the bands and all the rest of it. And I was always fascinated listening to the Russians' Navy beating along at 40, 50 words a minute and wondering what the hell they were saying. And also listening to things like Australian coast stations, Melbourne radio, Sydney radio down on 500 doing traffic lists, where I'd tape recorder and replay it back and try to decode all the CW out of the traffic list and that. So I think Graham Golf is an ex-marine operator. Fast forwarding, I finally got around to getting an F call in the early 2000s, quickly upgraded that to standard. Being in IT, played with all the digital modes, and been there, done that, got moved on pretty quickly. And had heard about the Long Island CW and CW Ops on a few of the YouTube channels and that, and going, wish that was here in Australia. And so I decided to bite the bullet and jumped on the Learn CW online course. But being the competitive perfectionist I was, it took me about a year to get halfway through that course because I wouldn't move on until I had nearly 100% copy on the practice sessions with that, with about 500 characters in it. So when Chris's course came up, I thought, well, this is it. I need to get fixed. I need to sort this out once and for all and get the hell on with this because it's taken too bloody long. I must admit, I was cracking myself at first, thinking my complete inability to read any decent speed or send it all was going to be exposed. I'm going to look like rubbish. But exactly the opposite happened. It was good because it gave me a methodology, but also the discipline of having to sit down every night and join the online course twice a week. Otherwise, it wasn't going to happen. So I went from basically doing no sending at all to being able to do the full alphabet numerals and that by the end of the 8 weeks, which was an absolute miracle because during the LCW course, I'd done no sending whatsoever, only receive. And the other good thing about it with Chris's experience, and he exposed all my bad habits of using a cheat sheet, counting the dits and the dots, and trying to get the last character that I missed, and hence losing all the ones following it. So it was good in that respect that it gave me the discipline and the methodology and exposed all my bad habits as well. So at the moment, I'm really interested in doing a lot of portable work, 5 watts and 5 watts on a wire. I live in a very small block here, so the noise level here is probably S9, 10 on 40 most of the time. So that's why I'm keen to do portable operation as well. But no, I was actually amazed. Number one, I thought I'd be dreading every week. I'm doing this practice and doing it in front of everyone else. But I had a heap of fun. It turned into a great thing to look forward to every week. And the other good thing about it was that it showed me that I wasn't completely hopeless because all the other students were having exactly the same amount of problem I was. So I wasn't complete nufty at this whole CW thing. So, no, best thing I ever did. As I said, Christian charged twice the price that he does for it.
Thanks, Darren. Yeah, we will double our prices next time around. And look, that's good because I think Darren's brought up a really good point, and that is by being in a group environment. Number one, it gives you a level of accountability to your classmates. But secondly, you're sort of sharing your problems and seeing that you're not alone, and you're seeing that other people can overcome their challenges as well. And sometimes the students helped resolve each other's problems. So that group think environment is really conducive to the learning experience. I'll chuck it across to Bob. Bob's, I know he's up in Perth and he looks like he's in his car. So thanks for joining us, Bob. Could you perhaps just give us a very quick précis of your experience in the beginners class? You'll need to unmute, Bob.
How's that?
Much better.
Yeah. Yeah, g'day. Yeah, sorry, I'm a little bit late. We'd been out and I flaked out on the bed. So I had the sudden realisation that I should have been somewhere else. Yeah, but anyway, look, I joined the course with a bit of trepidation and being a silly old bugger, but there you go. But I'd sort of been thinking about doing Morse for a hell of a long time now. Sorry about the funny angles. I've got a tablet I'm holding up in the air here. Yeah, so eventually somebody talked me into doing the course. I won't name him. So yeah, I set off on it, and what I enjoyed was it's been a very long time since I've had to commit myself to doing something like that. You know, twice a week with all the practice in between and the learning in between. You know, look, I've been doing other stuff for years that that have been a heavy commitment, but this is for me, and this is different. It's new, and so it was a challenge that I think I needed, and so it didn't take me that long actually. Sounds like I'm bloody bragging here, but learning the letters and that was quite easy in terms of slamming around on a key and producing them. In actual fact, I can send a lot faster than I can receive. So I've got to watch it because, you know, when I get out there, if I get out there on air, I haven't actually had a QSO yet. I'll fool someone else into thinking that I'm quicker, but anyway, we can get around that. So I started learning all this stuff. I had some great difficulties in learning the character recognition, you know, quickly, and that's slowly changing. I'm still using the instant character recognition thing, but what I've been doing is trying as blindly as possible to find a block of text out of somewhere and to copy and paste it into the generator thing at the CW Academy. So it's text out of the blue about nothing I know about. And I found the other day that I can get about 15 words into it before my brain bombs out and says, piss off, do something else. And you probably don't have to handle 15 words in a real QSO. So I found that encouraging. So I'm determined, as long as I don't flake out after I drive home tomorrow, because it's a fair hike. For those of you who don't know, it's about 420 k's, and so it's a fair drive. And yeah, I'll reconnect my antenna and see if I can actually get on air and have a few QSOs, there's someone that's looking for me because he knows I've been on air. I had an accidental being heard on air last week, and so that was funny. I was just practicing keying, and I had forgotten to turn the power down, the output, and I was picked up by somebody in New South Wales. And he sent me an email, said, "What? I didn't know." So yeah, that was a bit funny. But anyway, he emailed somebody else in WA who's probably at the same pace as me. So we'll try and hook up. And there's also a couple of others that are quite regularly talk to each other around about the right pace. So yes, I'll give in. So anyway, what I'm really pleased about is that I've learned this new skill. I think I'm grossly underestimating what I'm able to do. So it's going to be a big leap of faith to try and get on air and actually have a QSO with somebody, and I'm determined to do that tomorrow. And that's assuming I don't flake out when I get home. So because other days when I've known there'll be people on, they're in there skitting along at about 25, 30 words a minute, and I say, "Oh yeah, ha ha ha,"
Yeah.
and leave them to it. But yeah, look, if you're ever talking to anyone, I can thoroughly recommend that course. I mean, obviously there are other courses that people do and they learn it. But my experience of that course was fantastic. It got us to the stage we're at in a very short time, I thought. And I didn't have much other life to myself with playing Morse code and trying to put a magazine together. It sort of occupied my brain a bit.
Oh, have we lost him?
Done.
No, we might have just lost the last little bit there, Bob, but have I frozen up? I think I've frozen up. You've all frozen. Hang on. I'll put my hotspot on.
On here, VK2GR, Bob. Thanks for your feedback. Also, Peter, Jim, and Darren. I'm one of the CW Ops directors. So while Chris is good to see a few more people enthusiastic about Morse code and CW, particularly on the HF bands. So anybody who wants a bit of practice, give me a yell on the. Well, Chris has got my email. It's easy to find, and I don't mind slowing down a bit. I don't want to slow down too much, but I'm willing to have a QSO with anybody. So that's your challenge, Bob. Get in contact with me, and we'll have a QSO next weekend.
Okay. I'll be John Moyling next weekend.
Well, there you go. That'll do.
Yeah. Yeah, and remember we've got the give back sessions which will start straight after we're done here tonight.
Yep.
Tuesday night there's the QRS net. Wednesday night there's the Wednesday wrap. So there's 3 sort of canned opportunities, if you like, and then you've got your own network of people to reach out to as well. Sorry about my network going flaky. Are there any questions at all for either Bob or Darren on the beginner's course? Nope.
Oh, good.
No, but
it's
look,
just that I can't get much volume out of the audio on this bloody tablet. I can't hear people very well.
That's okay.
Just
all right.
One question, Chris.
Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, a couple of the guys locally around here are keen to start Morse. So if you were to recommend them to the beginners class, do they need to know anything to start with, or is it a good idea, or are they better to come in fresh?
Look, beginners works with the assumption you don't know anything.
Yeah.
It's probably fair to say that of the beginners class we just had, there were probably only one or two people that were extremely green.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Bob was one of them. Bob knew 7.3 and CQ.
Yeah.
Whereas most of the others probably knew the bulk of the alphabet.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I knew shit as well.
There you go. That's handy. So
Yeah,
no,
good.
to answer your question, Tim, completely green, no experience.
Good.
You know, maybe as Darren said, in some ways that's good. There's no bad habits to unwind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You do need a paddle one.
Yeah. And for beginners now, we're all it's not mandatory, but it's highly recommended a CW hotline, or an adapter which enables you to use the V-band online application, which copies and interprets what you're sending and displays it on the screen real time. So you can see that you're getting your character formation correct, and you'll get a sense of your rhythm and timing as well.
Well, built one of those, but I'm not entirely happy with it yet.
No. Now, is that a V-band one from America, or is it a knockoff?
The knockoff I built just with an Arduino.
Yeah.
What I also do, Chris, is because my radio is interfaced up with my desktop computer, is that so that I can actually practice with the radio rather than through a computer. I plug the key into the radio and I run FL Digi on the computer, and that listens quite nicely to what you're doing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
As does the guy in New South Wales.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so to answer that question, Tim, yes, absolute beginners. Really the only two or one mandatory is a paddle, of course, and the other one is a strong recommendation for a V-band adapter or CW hotline.
Yeah. Thanks.
Good. All right, are there any other questions or comments around CW Academy or the other support that CW Ops provides for operators in our part of the world?
Can I make a short comment?
Please do, Jim.
So I know SOTA and short QSOs is not for everyone. I'm not suggesting that. But if the proof is in the pudding about the effectiveness of CW, at the start I mentioned about the struggles that I had on Mount Cope and realising I need to learn CW. A couple of weeks ago I was on Mount Field East. I went up with another fellow who up until just recently doesn't do CW. Conditions were not in our favour. We both put our antennas up independently. Within 4 minutes I had 4 QSOs, activated the summit. 2 hours later he was still trying. We eventually got there. But as a consequence of that, of him now seeing the effectiveness of CW, he's actually now been learning and starting to slowly call CQ from summits himself. So I think having communities like this and having people like Tuesday nights and each of us in our own radio club spreading the message, I think it's slowly encouraging people to have a go.
Yeah, agreed. Good. All right, are there any further questions or comments, and we'll tie the ribbons? No? Terrific. All right, well, thanks everyone for joining. And if you know anyone or if you are interested in the next round of Academy classes, please drop me an email or give me a call, and be happy to put you on the list. We'll almost certainly be doing a beginner's class, and I'll just wait and see what the profile is for the demand as to whether we do an intermediate or advanced class as well. But there'll only be 2 classes in semester 2. All right, so if there's no further questions or comments, thank you all very much for coming along. I hope you've enjoyed it and got something out of it, and we'll catch you all next month, if not on air before. 7-3.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.